Hi guys, and welcome to my next Metropolitan Division preview. Up next, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, who I have finishing fifth in the Metropolitan Division. And I love the Carolina Hurricanes. They're obviously an analytics dream. Whenever you think of the prototypical Corsi team, you're either probably think of them, Chicago, or Calgary, or even Winnipeg now. But anyways, yeah, they're the prototypical analytics team. I mean, they're an analytical dream. Um, which I'll touch on a little bit later. Unfortunately, they have poor goaltending, horrible goaltending, which led them to miss the playoffs. But they won the draft lottery for the second pick, and they took Shvechnikov, who's an elite player. And I was looking a little bit at the draft analytics type things in the projection, and I found out the analytics show that Shvechnikov is actually much closer to Darlene than he is a guy like Kotkaniemi or Zadina. So he was definitely the second best player available after Darlene by quite a large margin. I think that he can probably come into the NHL and be productive. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So just looking at their team right now, their center depth is kind of meh. I know Daily Faceoff has Aho listed at center. He's an elite winger. I think he's one of the best young wingers in the game. And I think that he's going to crack 70 points this season if he plays wing. But can he play center? I don't know how good his defensive positioning and stuff like that is. I think um, a guy like Jordan Staal is incredibly underrated. When you look at his defensive goals above replacement models, he's right there with guys like Bergeron and Koivu and guys like that, Winter and Couturier. So I really think Stahl is incredibly underrated. I think he's been underrated for a really long time, and he really drives the offense for that team. Although it doesn't show up on his point totals, he really drives shot differentials and stuff like that. So, and then they also got a guy like Martin Nikash coming in as the second line center, who should be good. I mean, if you look at his NHL equivalency, he produced like pretty good like a second line player coming into the league. So he should slot in. I mean, he's a highly skilled player. Just watching a little bit of highlights of him, they've got a good one in Martin Nikash. The winger depth is also kind of meh. Uh, I'd say it depends on if Aho's playing the wing or if he's at center, like a guy like Teravainen. I really, really like him. I think they stole that trade with Chicago. I really like a guy like Justin Williams. One thing I wonder is why they trade Skinner for something so little. I think they got a second round pick and a guy like Cliff Pu, and I'm not really too high on Cliff Pu. I think he's going to be like a third line ish winger. I know his NHL equivalency production conversion wasn't too high. Um, he didn't really produce to the level of a player that I would expect to get back from Jeff Skinner. And if the alternative was letting Skinner walk for nothing, I'd much rather him walk for nothing than get a second round pick and Cliff Fu back, just because I think that the playoff experience would be extremely valuable for them. And I think that a guy like Skinner is the difference between them making and missing the playoffs. And as I mentioned, Sveshnikov should be extremely productive in a top six role. So the number one thing that stands out when you look at the Carolina Hurricanes roster is the defensive core. Both Brett Pesce and Jacob Slavin are incredibly underrated. Both were on my top 10 defensive defenseman list, and Slavin was on my top 10 two-way defenseman list, which is coming out really soon. I think Slavin is just incredibly underrated. I think he's one of the best two-way defensemen in the NHL, and I think, yeah, he's incredible. He drives shot differentials. He's an elite possession player. His expected goals relative to his team are really good. And I think that the biggest thing that they did was pick up Dougie Hamilton, who I think is a number one defenseman, not only a number one defenseman, a really, really good one. And when you're playing behind guys, I'm assuming he's going to be playing behind Slavin and Pesce, maybe with Dahan, who I love that Dahan pickup as well. If you look at his goals above replacement comparables, I mean, man, he's a really solid number three defenseman, maybe even low and top pairing defenseman. And when you pair him with a guy like Dougie Hamilton, I just can't wait to see how that pairing is going to work. They still got Jake Bean coming. Hayden Fleury's not bad. I believe they still got TVR, and so they're just loaded on defense. They probably have the best defense group 1 through 6 in the NHL. Yeah, they're absolutely loaded. I mean, the defense really drives possession for that team. Then we move on to the goaltending, which is horrible awful. Might be the best, the worst goaltending in the league. Scott Darling was the worst goaltender in the league when it comes to expected goals against versus actual goals against. Where Carolina didn't give up too many high danger chances, but it just seemed like everything got past Darling. And I think they have Mrazek now, kind of battling and pushing him for that number one position. think they're going to run a 1A, 1B type scenario, but they really got to fix that goaltending issue if they want to get anywhere in the near future. I believe they have a prospect. I don't remember what his name was, but I remember people telling me that he's playing for their AHL team right now, and he should be a really good goalie. So moving on to their actual on ice results, Corsi for percentage, they were 53.5%, which is second in the NHL. Corsi for per 60, 53.77. Corsi against per 60, 46.74, which is second in the NHL. So looking at their raw possession stats, they're either second or third in terms of Corsi for or shot generation, or in terms of Corsi against, they're second in the NHL. So they're an elite possession team, whether that's like Bill Peters' amazing system that he's running, because I think Bill Peters is an amazing coach, and he obviously left for Calgary now, or whether that's the players. I believe it's a combination of both. I mean, guys like Pesci and Slavin are naturally intrinsically really talented, and then they got a guy like, I didn't even mention in when I was talking about the defense, but Justin Falk is incredible, and he might be on the bottom pairing, which is insane to think about. Um, Maybe they might need to trade him for a winger or something like that to kind of I don't know if there's going to be enough minutes to go around, because I think Slavin and Pesci can probably go up to like 22, 20, 23, maybe even 25 minutes, and then you got a guy like Dougie Hamilton behind him who can probably do the same. Anyways, so in terms of their actual on ice goals for per 60, it was 2.13, which is 25th in the NHL. So when I talk about their expected goals for, you're going to see that they really underperformed that. And then their actual goals against per 60 was 2.48, which is 24th, and they really underperformed that as well. So moving on to their expected goals, the model from Corsica, their expected goals for per 60 was 2.45, which is 7th in the NHL. So they drastically underperformed their expected goals for. I think that what that comes down to is a lack of shooting talent, for the most part, which is what a lot of the analytics guys will tell you when you're looking at expected goals for, which is goals for, um, in terms of their on ice versus expected results, which is, I mean, if you look at their shooting talent, Sebastian Aho is an incredible playmaker. He's a good shooter. I wouldn't describe him as an elite shooter. Teravainen, the same thing, a good possession player, a really good creator in terms of, if you look at his shot assists, and same with Jordan Stahl, a good playmaker, good defensive center. But none of those guys are really elite shooters. Maybe a guy like Svechnikov can come in and close that gap between their expected goals for and their actual goals for in terms of their on ice results. And their expected goals against, 2.2, which is 10th in the NHL, and their actual goals against was 2.48, which is 24th. So they underperformed that again. I think that largely has to do with goaltending, obviously. So as soon as they fix that range will come down a lot. PDO, they were 29th with a 98.07, so that suggests that they were pretty unlucky, and that should round out closer to 100 with their on ice shooting percentage going a little bit higher, and definitely their save percentage going a lot higher. Penalty differential, with the type of possession game they play, you'd expect them to be a really high penalty differential team, and that's the case. They were plus 28, which is 4th in the NHL. And that's obviously a really good thing when you can incorporate guys like Teravainen, Aho, and then you got like a guy like Dougie Hamilton manning the point and running the power play. So if they really can normalize or reproduce that penalty differential this season, I really have a chance of them beating my prediction here and possibly making us push for that second wildcard spot, or maybe even greater. Um, so their pro player, Sebastian Aho, I love him. He's one of the best wingers in the NHL, in all honesty. He's really good. Dating back to his World Junior days, I remember watching him, Aho, and Puljujarvi on the same line and them tearing it up. I think he's pretty good defensively, too. His on-ice relative results are incredible. He's a first-line winger by almost all metrics, or all metrics, and he's an incredible elite player. Their minus player, Scott Darling, enough said. He underperforms his expected goals against, his expected save percentage. And yeah, he was probably the worst goalie in the NHL last season. So in conclusion, I can't put them any higher than fifth in the Metropolitan Division, although I really, really want to, just because I don't know about their offense. I don't like the Jeff Skinner trade for right now, and if they didn't trade him, I'd probably have them in the second wildcard spot, but unfortunately they don't. But I love the future of this team. Probably the best 1-6 defense of the NHL. So Kings fans have something to look forward to. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Peace.